Iconic IT co-founder Sitima Fowler is our guest host this week to talk about how 4 companies merged to become one, as well as news from Axcient, Sophos, and the freshly named ScalePad. Plus, a special guest interview with Augmentt chairman Gavin Garbutt. It's ChannelPro Weekly, number 163, SEXYSaaS. Hello and welcome to ChannelPro Weekly, episode 163. My name is Matt Whitlock, technology editor, online director, and your host of this fine program for you, the VARs, the MSPs, the IT integrators, the system builders, the technology consultants, if you're in a business that has a lot of acronyms, like MSP, MSSP, PCPC, ECD, all of those, you are probably in the right place. Joining me each and every week is the man that needs no introduction. So why the hell am I going to introduce him anyway? I'll do it anyway, because otherwise he's going to yell at me later. Executive editor, Rich Freeman.
Hello, everybody.
Rich, great to see you. Have you clearly visited the exorcist and excised all of your demons from last week?
Yes, I have expelled the demons. I am 100% clean.
100% demon free. That's
yes.
Good to hear. Well, we can only hope that they don't return this week. But because that was a crazy thing that happened. I don't know what that was all about. And you finally watched it, right? Because you didn't know what was going on. So for those who haven't caught last week's show yet, at some point in the show, Rich's audio kind of stopped, and then when he came back, he was talking 2 octaves lower, like he was possessed by a demon. It happens about 35 minutes in. It's well worth watching because it's really funny. But Rich had no idea this was going on, and he did this whole story about a Linksys product basically possessed.
And of course, as folks watching on video can see, I don't have headphones on, so I mean, to me, my voice sounded perfectly normal. There were 2 other people on the podcast who were in hysterics because all of a sudden I sounded like somebody, doing a monster truck ad, and yeah,
it was great. At least we didn't get horns growing out of your head or anything like that. So
yeah.
So no lasting side effects, which is great to see. So Rich, I am very excited that we are not alone here today. We've got an awesome guest host here with us. I'm really excited to have her on. She is the co-founder and vice president of marketing at Iconic IT, a highly successful MSP with locations in New York, Texas, Kansas, Colorado, and Florida. She frequently speaks at events and educational institutions on a variety of topics, and is also a decorated technologist. She's a 2018 Athena Award finalist, as well as the 2015 Rochester Small Business Person of the Year. Holy cow, that's a lot to go through. Please welcome Sitima Fowler. Welcome, Sitima.
Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be here. I don't think I've ever been a co-host of a podcast, so you'll just have to cut me some slack here.
Based on, we got a chance to record an interview earlier with Gavin Garbutt that we're going to be playing later on the show, and I can attest to all of our listeners, Sitima is a natural in the co-host space. She's going to do a great job. I'm very excited to have you here. Please, I kind of give a little bit of overview about you. Why don't you tell us a lot more about you, a lot more about Iconic IT, which we're going to get into because that's kind of a big story about a whole bunch of MSPs coming together, which I'm excited to talk about. But let's talk about you first. Tell us about you.
Yeah, so, I came to this country with my parents when I was 11 years old from India. And it was a rough childhood, you can imagine, even though I knew how to speak English, my accent was different and all that. And so, I think once I entered college, that's when I found hey, I can do more things, and I don't have to be defined by, some of the experiences as a first-time immigrant in this country. But also, every experience gives you the strength and everything. It just builds on, your life experiences builds on who you are today. So all of it had a profound, impact on me. And then in college, I got your parents, and a lot of Indian first generation immigrants will pretty much give your kids, we'll pay for your college, but you're either going to be a doctor or an engineer. And I hated the sight of blood, so I became an engineer. And one of my, I remember at that time, engineers were in big demand. And at college, we had lots of companies coming to interview in my senior year. And I remember telling my friend, I don't care how much they offer me, I'm going to take this job with Xerox because I see that they're located in New York. And I'm going to get a loft apartment in Manhattan, and you guys can all be jealous. I'm so bad in geography that I took the job, and little did I know that Rochester, New York is further away from New York City than Maryland was, so where grew up. So, so I was at Xerox for a long time, and then went to General Motors, which was an amazing job where I was building fuel cell cars, cars that run on hydrogen. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Couldn't figure out what to do. While I was at GM, my husband at the same time had started a company, MSP, called Capstone IT. But one of us had to keep working because we couldn't, just both of us quit our jobs at the same time. So, but it got to the point where it was doing well enough that I could quit my job at General Motors and join Capstone full time. And he was going to basically work with, service delivery, and I was going to work on, sales and marketing and growing the business. And the next couple of years were super tough because even though I had a master's degree, I had no idea how to do sales and marketing, couldn't get the sales phone to ring, and couldn't sell managed services. I mean, we were like, in Rochester's a small conservative town, nobody here is going to buy managed services. So it was, kind of pouring through any kind of content I could find to learn. Are you supposed to be a born salesperson, or is this something you can teach yourself? And at this time, neither one of us had any other jobs to fall back on, so we had to figure this out. And so we kind of like went through the process, and everything from investing in sales and marketing, learning how to do it. I enrolled with Robin Robbins, which I learned a lot from her and her style of marketing. And then we started investing in tools that makes us better, everything from RMM and, gauges, dashboards, gauges, all the stuff that costs money. And when you're not making a ton of money, when you're just starting out, it's all an investment. They're like, oh my God, is this going to pay off? It's another subscription fee for another piece of software. But all that, when we go back and kind of look at our trajectory of growth, you see the hockey stick right after we invest in a lot of these tools, which is really cool to go back and map out our journey. And then, so all that is going well. We were about slightly over 6 million last year at Capstone IT when we decided that we are ready for something more. And that really came about because we started to see a change in the industry happening. We started to see a lot of consolidation happening. And we're like, we want to be on the forefront rather than be reactive to something that is already in motion. So we decided to merge with 4 other companies, 4 other MSPs around the country, and we became known as Iconic IT. And within Iconic IT, I have taken on my favorite role of sales and marketing.
Go ahead, Rich.
Well, I was just going to say, because I mean, you guys have actually gotten a lot of attention in the industry because you are a perfect example of this larger issue of the rise of these regional and national MSPs, and what are maybe more local MSPs going to do in response to that. And so I mean, talk a little bit about how the 4 or 5 companies in Iconic IT kind of found each other, and what the thought process was that, brought you all to the same conclusion: we're better off as one company, versus a bunch of independent smaller ones.
Yeah, great question, Rich. So I think, for the last 2 years, just like any MSP will vouch, we were getting approached pretty much several times a week about different, PE firms wanting to talk to us and wanting to acquire. So we definitely saw this huge interest in MSPs. And, a lot of, even previous to that, there are companies like big copier companies and bigger companies that they all thought it would be easy to do, break into the small business world. And they all kind of said, oh yeah, we're a managed service provider of small businesses. And what a lot of them found is that it's not that easy. Taking your enterprise model and now translating it to the small business world, they were failing. So then I think a lot of people were like, okay, if we can't figure it out grassroots, let's go buy some MSPs. And I think that's where the interest in the MSP started happening, and seeing if we can get, if they can build it that way. So we started seeing a lot of that. And then in the meantime, we were all part of the Evolve group, the 4 companies that there was actually more than that, but it was actually at the very end when we actually signed the paperwork, only 4 were left. So obviously it was out of all our risk, comfort level. I mean, it's something new, something different. We were all very successful MSPs prior to the merger. So it's like, why rock the boat when we have a good thing going? But we felt like what we saw was this consolidation happening, and we didn't want to be the recipient of something else happening, and we wanted to take control of our own destiny. And then we thought that if we merged and became, had more resources available to us, we could impact, like, cost of security tools, cost of having like a high-end, cloud consultant on staff. If we could like have those, but share it among all of us, so each location didn't have to have a separate one, we thought there would be a lot more productivity and efficiency in this model. So that was kind of like the big reason why we decided that it's time to do it. And instead of selling or giving part of our company up to a PE firm, we said, why don't we just try to do it ourselves? And so that was the whole thing. Like, let's all, because we were all using the same kind of tools for the most part, that was a big factor in deciding, hey, I think we can do this.
And so just to make sure folks in the audience know, when you were referring to the Evolve group there before, that's IT Nation Evolve. You were in a peer group together. So you guys knew each other pretty well. You'd been sharing financial data for a while. It was a very strong comfort level when you made the decision to go into business together. So I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it was about very roughly a year and a half ago that Iconic launched. So you had a set of hopes and expectations going in for what you thought that would do. A year and a half later, how does it look? How, what has come true, and what maybe has surprised you, and that you didn't expect?
Oh, it's been all roses, Rich. There's no problems. Just kidding. So,
sure.
boy, we learned so much. I think, when you first get into something like this, like I said, it's obviously out of your comfort zone. We've never done anything, but I really believe that soon as you feel kind of comfortable in anything you're doing, you need to stretch yourself. You need to take that. That's how you're going to expand your knowledge, your venture. So I think the first thing we had to do was figure out what key business processes needs to get consolidated so we can start acting like one company. So obviously, we're all ConnectWise shops. So getting on the same instance of ConnectWise was definitely a top priority. Then getting, the financials, the invoicing system, so our customers are getting the invoicing coming from one central location rather than each of the geos that were there. So we started to look for where are we going to see the efficiencies in the back end the most. But the other critical decision we made was anything that touched the client, we were not going to touch, meaning anybody who's going on the local geo was going to keep servicing the local customers. Like, we did not want to mess with that relationship because in the small business world, business owners want their IT guy. They want the same familiar faces. So we did not want to rock the boat there. So all the integration we did was something the client wouldn't see. So it's in the back end, HR, our financial systems, and then the tools on the back end, like the Automate and the proactive management, like those could happen. But we left help desk, we left on-site support, we left the strategy with VCIOs, all the same people with the same clients. And as we are growing now, we are growing organically as well as we are doing acquisitions. So again, we're looking for strong companies that have good businesses. We've decided that we weren't going to go after like companies that were struggling, and that's not where we're after. We're after like acquiring good companies that have great clients with good, cost structure, profitability, and bring them into our fold and make it even better.
So as we've talked about mergers and acquisitions a lot on the show, we've always talked a lot about the culture differences between companies that can kind of make a lot of the acquisitions a lot more difficult as you bring them together. I have to imagine that's very, very noticeable with two. With four companies coming together all at one time, was that did that make the culture shock or the culture differences maybe less visible because there was so much new that it was just like, oh, we're just like one big new company forming our own whole new thing? Or was there some struggles getting all of that integrated and the feeling and the culture is kind of coming together?
Yeah, I think the part that really helped us with the original four is that we were already part of the accountability group together for so many years. So each one of us had already gone to each other's businesses for years and done SWOT analysis on them. So their employees knew the other ones. Like we were kind of like already within our conversations and doing a lot of the things the same way because we're part of the group. So that definitely helped. But as we acquire new companies and bring them on, it's not always the case. So we definitely have learned to slow it down. So I think one of our acquisitions, we made a big mistake and we learned so much from it, is if you bring them on and change everything right away, you're going to have employees that are going to leave. You're going to have clients that are going to leave. And it's because they didn't ask for it. They didn't ask for the acquisition. You brought it to them. So now you got to like let them be for a while. And so from that, we've learned just that, like, when it's a gradual process of where we're introducing the Iconic way of doing things over like a 12-month period rather than day one. And that way everybody kind of gets adjusted and it's not such a big shock.
One of the things I always think about whenever I'm talking with anyone who's involved in Iconic, I mean, there are probably a lot of people in the audience now who have been involved in a merger or an acquisition. And this, like Matt said, this typically involves two companies. And if it's an acquisition, quite often it's a larger company, acquiring a smaller company. In this case, you have several companies, all of which are very successful, coming together all at once. I mean, it just feels like the mother of all mergers in some ways. And so, I mean, is the onboarding, the sort of post-merger, is that done? Is that still underway? And I mean, what would you say, is like a key lesson learned about that whole kind of coming together process?
So yeah, so I think we are the first people to do a merger of the equals. So we, kind of decided that, we were going to try to do this on our own and figure it out. But in order to figure it out, we spent a lot of resources previous for a whole year with consultants to map it out. So we didn't go into it blind. We had a lot of consultants kind of putting the processes in place of what it's going to look like, and if even contingency plans. What if during this one of the partners decided to pull out? Like, what would that look like? So there was a lot of upfront work that I feel, if anybody's thinking about doing something like this, that needs to happen. And it does cost a lot of money. These consultants are not, cheap. Everything from lawyers to business process consultants, a lot of advisors out there, and they charge for their services. And so, but I think that doing that due diligence is crucial if anybody else is thinking about doing something like this. And then I think, like, it's a matter of, kind of, I think part of it is, we came in as equals. So even though our companies were valued at different, upfront coming into Iconic, we all owned 25% of it. So I think that helped. So it wasn't like, somebody else felt like, they had a bigger say or anything like that. So I think that was helpful as well, that we came in as 4 equals.
Interesting. So, and does that the structure still exists today? Like you're still folding in new companies. So how does that work moving forward?
So the 4 original companies are still the owners and the partners. Any other ones have been acquisitions where we're acquiring the company into the fold.
Okay. So those aren't mergers. Those are just, you're buying companies and just folding them in and they go away. Very, very interesting stuff. So I'll end before we go to news. I'll end on one question here. So what? How do you feel that it is going or gone so far? Has this been the right thing for you to do?
Yeah, I can't tell you. I think I can speak for all my partners. We literally feel like we're like dreaming, and we have to pinch ourselves. It's so awesome to have like when you don't feel like you're alone. If there's ever an issue, like nothing that my partners and I can't figure out together. And you know, there's so much like when you used to feel like the whole world like was on your shoulders as an individual MSP business owner. Now it feels like we have you know, each other to kind of build on, and we have more resources. So, you know, if we're looking at, you know, signing up for a tool that costs, you know, thousands of dollars, before it used to like be like, oh my God, that's thousands of dollars. But now it's like it's less fearful. We're more bold because we have the resources, and we can now act like a bigger company. You know, now we have like 180 employees. So everything is at a different scale, and we're learning new things as we go, and just the livelihood of 180 employees on us and the impact we can make on them, and we are making on them, is very satisfying. So I think all of us are like, you know, yes, we would do it all over again.
Excellent, excellent. Just make sure that you don't actually go and pinch your partners, though. They don't typically like that.
That's okay. Sometimes they deserve it.
Remember, one of those partners is her husband, so.
Yeah.
Well, he's okay to pinch. The rest of them, maybe not so much. All right, so Sitima, we're very glad that you're here. It's a very interesting story. We're gonna link to that story on our website, because I know we've been writing about that merger and kind of following your company there. So we'll put that on the website for those to watch, but we got you the whole show. We're excited that you're going to be here. So we're going to go ahead and move on to news. We've got news from Axcient, Sophos, and Warranty Master this week, as well as an interview that we did a little earlier with Gavin Garbutt, which we'll get to in a little while. Great interview. Stick around for that. But you're gonna be on with us the whole show, and we love to get your take on any of the stories that we have, including stories about pinching people.
Okay.
All right. So, Rich, our first news story this week comes from Axcient, who's added direct to cloud components to their BDR solution. Tell us about that.
Yes. So not all that long ago, Axcient took a collection of standalone BDR products that they had and an image-based backup solution, and they kind of rolled that all together, integrated it 100%, put a unified management plane in front of it, and called it X360 Recover. X360 is their entire kind of platform. The Recover, the BDR data protection part of that is called X360 Recover. And what they've done this week is add a direct-to-cloud component to that. So at this point, you have a traditional appliance-based BDR system or option. Within X360 Recovery, you have image-based endpoint backup within that product, and now you have this direct cloud option as well, which is a little bit different than what some folks out there might be thinking about in terms of direct to cloud backup. Typically, when you hear that, what you're really talking about is image backup to the cloud. Or file and folder backup to the cloud. But what the Axcient folks wanted to do basically is create a solution that does absolutely everything that an appliance-based, on-site business continuity, disaster recovery kind of solution does, minus the appliance. And so that is, what they say this system it does. Now, at this point in time, in a lot of ways, what they rolled out this week is kind of like a very substantial down payment on what this solution is going to be in maybe 6 months' time. So right now, they can offer you a 15-minute RPO and a 1-hour RTO, recovery time objective, which is clearly substantially slower than you would get with a hardware-based BDR solution. But on the other hand, it's going to be a great deal less expensive. You're not purchasing or managing the hardware. And so from a bigger picture perspective, in terms of what this means for X360 Recover, they're really kind of turning that system into a sort of Swiss Army knife of backup and recovery, where you have the option of an appliance-based BDR system for the customers who need that kind of immediacy. You have the image-based backup that is an important part of a recovery or a BDR strategy for any end user. And then you also have this direct-to-cloud option, which is going to be a little bit more economical maybe than the appliance-based model, but also will have some trade-offs, and it's going to be right for some customers. The appliance-based option is going to be right for different customers. Now, an important point about the RTO, the 1 hour RTO, that's the way it works today. Like I said, the product is going to be evolving actually quite a bit over the course of the next 6 months. Right now, if you want to design, pre-configure a recovery environment for a customer, you've really got to kind of do that in collaboration with Axcient. There's a support call involved, and they'll kind of do a lot of that on the back end for you. Starting in December, there will be a self-service tool, so you'll actually be able to do all that configuring yourself and specify what order the VMs are going to boot up in and what resources they're going to get and all that stuff. You'll be able to set that all up on your own. And then in the first quarter of next year, that 1 hour RTO will get much shorter. And so, they're saying that they will have instant recovery capabilities in the cloud. It sounds like it's going to mean within minutes, but it's going to be way less than an hour. And that will kind of change the consideration and the thought process around which customer does or doesn't get the system. And then the other thing that'll be happening over time, right now, the only cloud option in terms of where you're sending data to is Axcient's own cloud in their data center. A few months down the road, you're going to gain the ability to use your data center or the customer's data center if they have one. And then at some point next year, whenever version 2.0 of this product comes out, and they're not sure when that is at this point, but whenever version 2.0 of their direct-to-cloud system comes out, then you will also get the option of using AWS or Azure. And if you use one of those options, if you go with your data center or a customer's data center, the licensing costs will go down pretty substantially because you're bringing your own storage to the table. And so theoretically, if you can find cheaper storage than Axcient is building into their cost structure, the total cost of the system might actually go down a little bit too.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit less about what it will maybe be in the future, and a little bit more about what it is right now. Sitima, when you're looking for an endpoint backup recovery BDR kind of solution, does something like this appeal to you? Do you have clients that fit that mold of like, well, you know what, we don't really need it immediate because we'd rather save money? Or is this something that you would look at and be like, well, maybe in the 2.0 version when it sounds like it's a little bit better? Because right now it's 15-minute RPO, 1 hour RTO. Should they say how long it is to the C3PO?
I forgot to ask. That's a great question.
We got to find that out because that's crucially important. So Sitima, what do you think?
Yeah, I think with any solutions, there's always, one application is not going to be the right fit for everybody. So obviously having an appliance on site lets you recover a lot faster. And so when it's cloud-based, it's going to take longer. But I think for some applications, the appliance is having on site is clunky. And so I definitely see how this could be very attractive, not just for servers, but for the endpoints, so, and having one system that can do both is the other. So you don't have to have one, application for the endpoints and one application for the servers. So I think combining the two and having one pane of glass is definitely attractive.
Go ahead, Rich.
I mean, and there's one other kind of interesting angle to that, which I don't actually, we'll link to, my ChannelPro coverage on this, but I don't actually talk about this in the article. The Axcient folks talked about it with me. They actually have during the beta process, one of their MSP partners realized that it was very useful to go into a brand new client, start the client out on direct to cloud. So I'm backing your stuff up. I'm providing that BDR protection immediately to you. And then later on, when there's time and you can get in there with an appliance and set that up, you can convert them to that appliance-based model. I mean, these two, the ability to switch from one to the other because it's all one part of one solution can be handy too.
But Rich, I think what's going to be key is that Axcient doesn't fall down on that support. Like you mentioned right now, the MSP is only as good as Axcient's ability to respond quickly and help, right? Because you're saying like right now, you do need Axcient's support in order to recover. So I think Axcient needs to be super in tune with their MSP partner in terms of response time.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much agreed. Until, at some point then, and that's mostly where they get involved is in the configuration, like the setup kind of stuff. So you're not, at least as I understand it, you're not dependent on them to actually spin up a cloud environment. I believe that's right. But even so, if any aspect of the solution is done collaboratively, then yeah, they've got to be on top of things. Or it's not a great option for their partners.
Yeah, agreed. So now, Sitima, they did highlight some of the directions they're going with this. So let's say they do improve those times and they take the support call out of the mix. Does this become then even far more attractive to someone like you?
Definitely, but I think also I would want to see, well, what is the solution priced at? So again, we only know what our clients are going to pay, and we have to back our tools to that cost. Like just because I introduce this doesn't mean I can raise my prices all the time, especially during like this environment right now we're in, where a lot of people are just kind of holding on to what they have rather than actually spending more. So I think I would be interested in seeing what the solution is going to cost and how does it compare to some of the tools we're using today.
Yeah, interesting. Well, we will see how it evolves, and we will watch it and see where it goes. So, Rich, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next story, which comes from Sophos. They've added some cost optimization, something we're going to talk about a little later, actually, to their cloud OPTIX security solution. Sounds like something you're going to tell us about.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of interesting. This is actually news from last week. The news broke after we did our last podcast episode. But this concerns a Sophos product called Cloud OPTIX, which is a cloud security solution that they introduced last April, in fact. Does a number of different things. It'll kind of go out and help you figure out what kind of cloud security or cloud products the customer is using. It'll monitor whether or not the customer is complying with regulatory requirements and internal security policies with those cloud applications. It'll look out for anomalous behavior and threats and alert you to that. So it's a pretty robust set of cloud security capabilities. But I mean, it is very much, or has been, a cloud security product. And Sophos is obviously a security vendor. But they were actually using the tool themselves at Sophos to secure their cloud-based management interface called Sophos Central. And, they have a lot of partners who are using it as well. And everyone using it basically kind of came to this common realization. Now that we kind of know, we've done this great job of rounding up information about all these different cloud solutions that are out there, wouldn't it be great if we could also track how much we're spending on all these different systems and see where the money is going and get alerts maybe when we cross thresholds. Now, this has nothing to do with security, right? We're talking cost optimization for cloud applications. This is really like what we will be talking about with Gavin Garbutt later in the show. This is cloud management, SaaS management. But they had most of the data that they needed already. They were getting input from partners that we would love it if you would add it to this product. And they went ahead and that's basically what they did. And in the process, they kind of turned Cloud OPTIX into this kind of hybrid security management sort of platform. Now they have no plans, specific concrete plans that they talked about to continue adding additional management functionality to the system. They are open to the idea. So they certainly didn't rule it out. It didn't sound like this is step one on a path that will get them to, turning this into a full-blown management system for cloud products. I mean, it's worth noting that that wouldn't necessarily be a totally different thing in the industry. Barracuda, which is very much a security as well as a backup company, owns an RMM system and kind of thinks of it as a security first RMM system. So, I mean, there are other products out there that kind of blur the lines between security and management. But this is sort of an interesting newcomer to that group.
Yeah. So you kind of highlighted what the first question I was going to ask you, Rich, which is, well, what does that mean going forward? So you don't think they are going to start dipping more and more into the management side of this? Because as you said, Sophos is a security company. This is kind of weird. This is like, I grow, I'm a farmer and I grow berries and apples and whatever. And, I'm only one oven away from becoming a giant pie manufacturer. So I'm going to just start making pies or making machines that make pies. I don't know. I'm getting off topic here with my analogies. Do you think this is good? You don't think they're going to follow that path? That's where their customers want them to go?
Well, and that's a really interesting way to ask the question. Is that where their customers want them to go? The vibe that I got speaking with them was that this felt like there was a clear need. They experienced it themselves. The MSPs told them that this is a need. And they went out once they realized, boy, it would be great if this capability was in our product. They went out and they looked to see what the alternatives were. And what they found was, there are these big, overly complex, very expensive kind of enterprise oriented systems. And then there are systems that are maybe platform specific. So they'll just manage, the Microsoft stack or whatever. So there's an opening out there. It's not that hard for us to do. And so we're going to do it. I did not get the sense that, they're getting into the RMM business would be a very, very crude way to put it. I don't think that's the ambition. But when I asked, is that what you're doing? The answer was, well, we don't, we don't have anything on the roadmap now, but this all came about because our partners told us they want it. And so we did it. So, that implies if they continue to get that kind of feedback and the input that they're getting from their partners basically is, I want this to be my everything cloud management and security tool. Maybe they do go down that road, but I don't think they've made the strategic commitment yet to do that.
Very interesting. So Sitima, I want to ask you about the cost tracking in general. That seems to be a big need for MSPs who manage a lot of small businesses.
So in terms of cost tracking for our end client, or you mean cost tracking in terms of our tools cost track, MSP's tool cost tracking?
Well, I assume this does both, Rich, right? Does this track your customers' SaaS, the MSP's customer SaaS app use, or is this tracking for the MSP specifically?
I believe this is really just about the end user. So, when they were trying to secure all these workloads, they pulled together an inventory of what does this customer have in their environment. And now it can also tell you what are they spending on those things. And then you can kind of see where the money goes and, what maybe you're spending money on, but not actually using and all that kind of stuff.
So Sitima, to answer that question, to give your customers an insight of what their spend is.
Yeah, I think you probably have to define who is going to care. So at some of your, like, let's say doctor's office, dentist's office, are they willing to pay to understand this? Or is their environment simple enough that, they have 4 or 5 major line of business software that they use and they're not that curious about the cost. And so I think it would have to be probably a little bit bigger clients that may have this need. So I'm just trying to, in my mind, trying to figure out which one of my clients would be willing to pay for a service like this.
I don't know. Now, Rich, they said that if you are a Sophos Cloud OPTIX user, this capability is provided at no charge, correct?
At no extra charge, exactly. Yeah, if you're paying for the product already, this is just a new feature within it.
So then, would you say that maybe one of the big benefits, because as Steve was saying, maybe not all customers would care, but it's another thing that's in the arsenal, is to be like, well, when they're trying to sell a customer, perhaps not only can I secure you or whatever, I can also help you analyze your costs. That seems like a pretty good marketing approach anyway, right?
Yeah, I think the marketing piece could be huge on this one because, yeah, I think the more some of these software vendors come up with a way to help us MSPs market and show more value to our clients, the better it is. So, sometimes we have all the right intentions with tools that we adopt, and we're never able to articulate to our end client why this is of benefit to them. And we will reach out to the software vendor saying, hey, our clients are saying, they don't see value in this. Can you help us with the marketing material and the marketing side? And not all of them can produce it. They know how to talk to an MSP, but they can't always translate the value of their product services to the end client. And sometimes we struggle with that. So if they can come up with a way to clearly show how it values the client, and we can, therefore the MSP can translate those words, I think that would be very helpful.
And the fact that a tool like this would come from a security company, would that bother you at all?
No, I think, security is something that we are taking so, well, you're saying the cost and the security piece?
Yeah, do you find it odd that it would be wrapped into a security offer?
No, I think actually it's very brilliant because a lot of the times we are noticing that we see why we need to beef up the security for our clients and even for us as MSPs, but telling that to some of our end clients who are so focused on growing their business or they're taking care of their employees during a pandemic, security, they know security is something they should be concerned about, but they don't have time in their day. They're running their business. So I think when a security company touches on the thing of cost, they're very smart because small business owners are worried about cost and are worried about watching every dollar right now. So I think they're on point.
Very interesting. So Rich, I'll end with one final question. Maybe this might be more to you, but since you kind of have a good broad view of a lot of the products and services out there, does it seem like the end result of any tool suite ultimately is to go to the management side? Like everything is eventually going to become this big RMM suite? Or do you actually still see that there will be separate suites for various needs?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think it is the ultimate destiny of every vendor to create a management suite. I think, well, it's a really interesting question actually, because one of the things that I think, and Sitima can kind of verify or not, but when I talk to MSPs, one of the things that's on their mind is just how ambitious are the Kaseya's and Dattos and ConnectWises of the world in terms of how expansive does their suite of products eventually get, and is their master plan to really kind of push me into getting everything from them. I think nobody is out there, and none of the big vendors out there is going to cast any doubt whatsoever on their commitment to APIs and to integration. And so the vision, the idea that you can plug together products that are from vendors who specialize in different areas and build your own suite, that's still out there. And Axcient is an example of a company that really has they know what they do. They're in business availability. And who knows, they could surprise us, someday and get into some adjacent market. But they are specializing in a piece of the stack, a piece of the suite, and integrating with everybody else. So I think there will still be a place from a vendor standpoint for specialization and narrower specialties. And from the MSP standpoint, ultimately everything has to kind of feel like come together as a suite to some extent.
Sitima, last word to you.
I think you're going to see some major innovation in new things coming in this environment, because I don't think most people, including the RMM giants today, had any idea how quickly this remote workforce, this modern workplace is coming. They thought they had time. Everybody thought we had time, but it's here. And now I think the SaaS, like, you know, people are just going after the SaaS first because it is something that they can get to market quickly. But you are going to see a lot of consolidation and cross, because this is a brand new opportunity, brand new market that people are going to scramble to be the first to take it over.
Indeed, indeed. Interesting. Well, we will definitely keep an eye on that and watch how that plays out over the next, you know, a couple of years, especially as you talk about this new modern workforce, and how the people, a lot of people, we didn't really talk a lot about that in the beginning of the show, but just kind of what your thoughts are on how, what that modern workforce is going to look like. And you know what, Rich, we're going to talk about that right now, because I can do that. So what do you see the modern workforce looking like, Sitima, over the next year? What is it going to be a year from now? Still remote, still back in offices? What do you think?
So we just recently did a survey ourselves at Iconic IT for end clients and to understand. So I think the survey came back with half, like over 40%, like 49%, pretty much saying it's not going to be one or the other. It's going to be some kind of hybrid. And you know, there's still some unknown, some people don't know, but however we emerge out of this pandemic, we all know it's not going to be exactly the way it was before the pandemic. Things are going to change. And I think the biggest driver for that is that employees got a taste from working from home. And I think they are liking it. I think most, from what I hear, like, you know, to attract good talent in the future, if you say you have to report to the office, I think you're gonna miss out on some employees. They really have a more fulfilled life right now working from home. And as the older business owners, you know, we're like, oh, there's no way we can manage a company. There's no way we can keep culture going with people remote. We're going to have to evolve, and we're going to have to figure it out, because I think the employees, especially millennials, I think they really like the taste they've gotten. And I think now, you know, in the beginning, in March, when the pandemic hit, we all like grabbed our laptops and ran home, helped our clients run home and work from home and all that. But now it's been several months. And if this thing is here to stay in some form or fashion, now the conversations for MSPs with their end client is, let's sit down, let's figure out what is the strategy of your business in the future, whether you return fully back to the office, or you have a hybrid or all remote. What is it going to look like? What is that journey? What is your environment needs to look like? And map things out for them and give them different ideas, and then put the security and everything around it. And it's not going to be the same. It's going to be different than what it was prior to March.
Agreed. And you know what else I see in the future? And I totally agree with you. I think we're going to see still a lot more work at home, and we're going to see a lot more treadmill desks. We need more treadmill desks so you can exercise while you work.
Yeah, because I think all our midriffs, maybe except for you, Matt, is getting bigger. So definitely, I think if there is a MSP vendor partner that can come up with a software tool that also works on the midsection of the MSP employees, sold.
Now you're talking. Now that's an integration.
That's called M. So Rich, that's MSaaS. MSCAS, midsection exercise as a service.
How about SEXYSaaS? Let's go with that. SEXYSaaS.
Okay, so what could that stand for? Because it has to stand for something. This is the IT space. Everything has to be an acronym. So, what could sexy?
It'll be SaaS, and it will be SEXYSaaS.
You heard it here, folks. So is SEXYSaaS.com available? We need to find out right now.
Get some t-shirts made.
I love it. Sitima, this is our new business venture.
Yes.
SaaS. I have a feeling that we're going to get blocked in the family.
Just like Gavin's company. Gavin's company has how is it spelled with the
Two
T at
T's
the end?
Yeah, Augmentt with the 2 T's.
Augmentt with the T. This is going to be SaaS. So S²S. Oh, no,
S-
no, don't go there. That's not good.
Yes.
Wow, this is going downhill or no, uphill pretty fast.
Pick a direction. It's all good either way. All right. Well, we're going to move on before we do go any further in whatever direction we were going. And we're going to talk about Warranty Master, Rich. They've extended their hardware asset management platform to software and have adopted a new name. Tell us about that.
That's just it. We are not actually talking about Warranty Master anymore. We are talking about ScalePad, because ScalePad is the new name of the vendor formerly known as Warranty Master. Well, why did they change their name? So originally what these guys did was hardware asset management. So they would pull together information about servers and workstations and network gear from your RMM system, and they would mix it together with stuff that they were getting via API connections to the OEMs who manufactured that stuff, and they would give you a really kind of complete, detailed, automated look at an end user's hardware environment and how old this stuff is, and you know, as the name implies, what's the warranty status? When does the warranty expire? And just kind of helping MSPs manage all that information. Because I mean, I know I have spoken to, and these tend to be larger ones, but I mean, if you are a bigger MSP with a pretty substantial customer base, you might have an employee who's spending half of his or her time or all of it just, you know, managing the spreadsheet that some companies use with all the warranty expirations and so on. So just right there, kind of automating that process, pulling that information together, it was a big part of what these guys did. And what they have added to that now is the ability to do the same kind of thing for software. And you know, there are no warranties for software per se, so the name didn't make sense anymore. They adopted a new name, but what they have created is what they view as a complete IT lifecycle asset management solution now, so that both the hardware and the software. And these things, I mean, you can kind of see just from an operational efficiency standpoint, the benefits of being able to pull software information together in one place and understand the license status and the renewal dates and all that kind of good stuff. But the two parts of the product, the software and the hardware part, actually play off each other kind of nicely, according to the ScalePad folks, because you can kind of see when the time is maybe approaching that you're going to need to upgrade an operating system, upgrade an application to the next edition, and you know that new edition is going to require more resources than the existing hardware can handle. So I mean, one just from the get-go, one of the revenue producing opportunities around the hardware asset management piece of Warranty Master is that you could kind of go to your customers and say, you know, you've got all these laptops here that are 5 years old and it's time to upgrade, and let's talk about doing that. Or you've got all these laptops that are approaching the end of their warranty, and so you're either going to need to replace them or purchase through us, thank you, an extended warranty. Now you can kind of use the software lifecycle to play into that conversation as well. You're not going to be able to run, you know, version 4.5 of this business critical solution that you use on the hardware, the server that you've got right now. So let's talk about an upgrade and get that scheduled and get that done. So that, you know, they've significantly increased the scope of what the system does, and they changed their name as a result. ScalePad, in case you're wondering, the pad as in launch pad. They want to view this product as a launch pad for scaling your business and helping the end user scale theirs.
It's great. It's a great idea.
Sorry, Matt.
No, go ahead.
I mean, to me, you know, Warranty Master, I love their product. I mean, our customers love it. Like, you know, showing them the inventory of everything they have. It also shows them the value of everything, because a lot of the times what MSPs do is proactive service, and the end client doesn't always see it. You know, so this is another way of showing very tangible value. But when one of our VCIOs sits down with the client and saying, you know, let's kind of put your roadmap together. Here is, you know, half your computers are going to be over 5 years old. Let's put a plan together, and that's revenue. how does one make money? How does an MSP make money off of software? Like if their line of business software needs upgrading, does it translate into like project work? Is that what the way an MSP might be able to use this?
So from a revenue generating standpoint, so that would be one example that there could be project work that comes out of this. Theoretically, if you weren't doing software asset management for the customer before and managing license renewals and all that kind of stuff, if you're adding that to what you bring to them, then maybe that justifies a price increase. Here's some additional value we're providing. We need X additional dollars per month to compensate for that. Some of the value that you get, I think that they would say at ScalePad, is from on the software side specifically, is from the increased efficiency. So it's not necessarily that you're making more money, but you're maybe spending a little less because you don't have to work as hard to pull some of this information together. So yeah, I guess it all goes to the bottom line, I guess is the answer.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it seems neat. I'm going to ask, well, I don't know, the obvious question that is burning in my mind. How do you do what you do and get the name of ScalePad?
Because they didn't have the idea of SEXYSaaS.
They're kicking themselves now.
Yeah. And then I might have also made more sense for this particular product too than ScalePad. Do they give any indication of where they got that name?
Well, pad as in launching pad, and you're launching your way to a scaled business.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
And it's one word.
And it's one word, and the URL and the .com was available. See, Sitima, I am of the belief that all company names now derive whether or not they could get the domain name.
Oh my gosh, do you know when we came together as Iconic IT, we couldn't believe after going through all the names that Iconic IT wasn't taken. And we're like, sold, done.
Yep, see, it's all about the domain name. That's all it is. Can you get the .com? That's the name we're going to take. That's why we're ending up with companies like Zooglebot and stuff like that. Because like you have to make up weird random stuff now because most of the domains are taken.
Well, I think SEXYSaaS might still be available.
You better grab that because we're launching that in a year.
Yes. You might have to accelerate it. I
agree. So back to the ScalePad story. It looks nice. I think you kind of answered the question a little bit about how that translates to that. Now, is this just new functionality that if you're an existing warranty master customer and you're doing asset tracking, is this just now like included and poof, the name changes, but now you have all of these new things you're tracking, or do you have to like pay extra for software tracking?
Very good question. So they are in a preview period right now. They just introduced the functionalities. So for some period of time to come here, existing customers will get the software for free, and new customers will probably be able to play around with it for free as well. But then eventually there will be an incremental fee, and the justification for that basically is their work already when they were in beta with this. They found that typically at an end user site, for every one piece of hardware out there, there's 10 pieces of software, and they, their cloud database has to track all of this for all of the end users that all of their partners are. So I mean, just from a resource consumption standpoint, they know that they're going to be eating up a whole lot more public cloud capacity, and so they do have to charge people who are going to be contributing to that. So there is an incremental fee.
And also, they're not the only company that does software licensing tracking, right? Like this is not a new thing.
No, it's not. Although there are products out there in various categories where the distinguishing and potentially new thing is that this is specifically for MSPs. So, all the multi-tenancy and the subscription-based price, and all the things that an MSP wants. Sometimes the products in all sorts of different categories are out there, but they're really kind of enterprise oriented. This is a very MSP specific software asset, and I didn't even invoke this, but there's hardware asset management and there's software asset management. And when I was talking to Dan Wensley, the CEO of the company, he would sometimes refer to this as Ham and Sam. We're now doing Ham and Sam. I
do not like green ham and Sam. I do not like them, Sam. I am.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Hey, if you want to get more details about any of the stories that we've covered today, we put links to all of these in the show notes page at channelpronetwork.com. So go there, find the episode sheet for episode 163, and then you'll be able to go and link to these, because we're just kind of touching on a high level, but there's always more details and more information on all these stories. If you're watching on YouTube, open up the description area underneath the video, and you'll find links there for you, so you can go and read along and get all of the details. We are going to take a break. When we come back, we have a great interview lined up with Gavin Garbutt. We recorded it a little earlier. We're going to switch to that now. Great interview. You'll absolutely want to check it out. And then, of course, we'll wrap up the show later on with some of our regular tech picks. So stick around for that. We will be right back. And welcome back to part 2 of ChannelPro Weekly. We've got an amazing guest interview lined up for you today. He's been the founder in several successful startups, responsible corporate governance, strategy, restructuring, and corporate financing for private and public companies. He was the co-founder and CEO of Enable Technologies, which is now part of SolarWinds. And today he is the chairman and co-founder of Augmentt Technology. Please welcome Gavin Garbutt. Welcome, Gavin.
Matt, thank you very much for having me. It's fun to be back. It's been away for a few years, and haven't spoken to Rich in those few years, but it's great to be back and be connected with you guys again.
Yeah, so I understand you and Rich have a little bit of history together of some kind. Let's tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we're two old dogs in the industry, and we've been at it for a while, and we used to discuss the industry way back when, and now here we are doing it all over again. So it's great to be back with you guys.
That's good. I was hoping there was going to be like, oh yeah, we went to college, and there was this one time we were like doing a college hazing thing, and but no stories like that though, huh?
No stories like that, and if there were, we just keep them under the cover anyway.
Sounds good. So Gavin, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about Augmentt Technology?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that kind introduction. I have been in the MSP and channel space for 20 odd years, starting with Enable Technologies. And the idea behind Enable was really, this was back in actually late 99 at a cocktail party with a VAR. And I asked him what was the one thing he could do to his business that would really accelerate it going forward, profitability, productivity, all that kind of thing. And he said, geez, if I could only remotely monitor and manage my customers. And so when I rolled the truck, at least I could roll it with the right parts, or maybe I wouldn't even have to roll the truck. That would be incredible. And I said, come on, you're crazy. There's OpenView, there's CA Unicenter, there's Tivoli. And he said, no, you don't understand. Those are enterprise solutions. There's nothing for the small and medium-sized business market or the VARs supporting them. So we went to work and started building the technology and the business processes to help evolve the VARs from a chaotic to a proactive to a managed business model. And that was a ton of fun. And here we are 20 years later, and all those devices that they were managing are moving to the cloud. And the applications are becoming the most critical part of IT. And so, again, we see that there is no SaaS management platform for managed service providers. There's ServiceNow, there's Better Cloud, there's Flexera, there's Snow, but there's nothing for the MSPs. And so it's the exact same situation as 20 years ago with Enable. And my first employee of Enable, VP of Marketing and Business Development, Derek Belair, He's my partner in this venture, and he's the CEO of Augmentt. We decided last year, exactly this time, we were about to head off on a sailing trip to the Bahamas, and we decided that this was a worthy venture to help MSPs evolve from that next phase of managed devices to managed cloud services.
So I want to talk way more about Augmentt with you, but like you mentioned, we've known each other for a while. We go back to the Enable days. You sold Enable to SolarWinds, I want to say it was in 2013.
Yes,
and
right.
so we've spoken a little bit recently about Augmentt, but I mean, there's about a 7 or 8 year gap there where we basically had no. So what have you been up to between the sale of Enable and now?
Well, after Enable, I had a non-compete clause. So I've always had ventures. I've always had an interest in something, and I like to keep busy. And so our eldest daughter was actually graduating from university, and she had a cooking show while at McGill, and she wanted to get into the food industry. And so she came to me saying, "Dad, I want to do something, but I want to do my own thing." And I said, "Well, you've got to figure that out." So we figured out how to productize services in the marketing industry and kind of make it like an industrial semiconductor line. And how do you understand all the parts that are needed, and how do you productize that and do a service catalog? Much like in managed services, where you deliver services at a fixed fee on a monthly basis. And so I invested in her, and she built a company with international offices, and a nice global company with leading CPGs, Coke, Pepsi, Unilever, Kraft, all these types of companies. And then we sold it to a $34 billion PE firm. And she and her family at the tender age of 30 are set for life. And
holy cow, sometimes when you tell people like, "Hey, what have you been doing the last 7 years?" Some people just say, "Oh, I was playing Minecraft." No, but no, you built a huge company with your daughter, and
again, another company, and ending in another very successful sale.
Yes, and the sale part is funny too, because I was spent a lot of that time while helping her. My wife and I were sailing around Europe and the Caribbeans, and we're often a bit of a sailing adventure. So yes, we had a great period. But then after that, I was looking for the next opportunity. My non-compete was over, and I like the idea of making processes better. How do you optimize processes? And that was the whole concept with Enable. Back in 2000, a technician who was in a reactive mode could manage about 120 devices. And by using the technologies and the proper processes, we figured we could get a technician up to about 800 to 1,000 devices per technician. And if you're charging $60 a device per month, and there's a big difference now between 120 and 800 devices. And this is where the profitability of MSPs or VARs went from 2 or 3% up to 25 to 30%. It was because of the productivity gains and the optimizations around technologies and services. So that excites me. Like if I can be helping these people take their businesses from a 2% EBIT to a 30% EBIT business, that's a lot of fun. Like that's where I get my pleasure. And I view we're in exactly the same thing. The devices, all those nice, expensive devices, you charge a lot more for a router and a lot more for a server per month to manage them. Well, they're mostly going. And the devices on premises are becoming dummy devices. It's all about, for the end customer, it's all about the applications. That's what's going to make them competitive. That's what's going to help their employees deliver their services to their customers. And so the MSP has got to be helping the small and medium-sized business and small and medium-sized enterprise optimize their application stack so that the employees can be most productive and they can be most competitive. So this is the quagmire that we want to help solve, is how do we help the MSPs move from the device management model and, Office 365, Microsoft 365, they're starting to manage that as well, but it's the whole stack they've got to help them with. The Salesforce, all the ERP systems, all the marketing systems. The customers need to make sure all of that stuff is operating properly and that they have the right applications working together. And they secure those applications. Because, the funniest thing today, all you hear about is security, 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 and everybody's managing the perimeter, but the stuff's coming through the top, right? It's all the SaaS applications aren't being managed. Nobody knows how much shadow IT is out there because they don't have an app to do it. It's not the MSP's fault. It's just that those ServiceNow applications and Better Cloud and Flexera and Snow and whatnot, those are for the enterprise, and there's nothing for the managed service providers operating at the small and medium enterprise or small and medium business level. And that's the solution that we're bringing to the market, is to help the MSPs get in there, start managing all of those applications, get part of the mix, because we all know the vendors go directly to the end customers and the end customers go directly to the vendors for a lot of those apps, and the MSPs are left out of the equation. We want to get the MSP into that equation. We want to help them help their customers understand, great, what applications do you actually have running in your environment? What's your security and compliance issues that your customers have? And it's shocking. Like, when customers go out and do these discoveries, they discover they have 2 to 3 times more apps than they thought they had. Even the MSPs who run it internally go, wait, we canceled that application 6 months ago. Why are there still 3 or 4 people using it? So it's understanding that from a security perspective, but then also from a cost management perspective. I've got all these apps, some of them I'm using, some of them the employees are not using anymore. Should we be paying for these? And that cost savings for the customer is quite significant. And that's an opportunity, again, for the MSP to go into the customer, do a discovery, show them where they're overpaying, where they have applications that shouldn't be in there, or duplicate applications, and help them save money easily and quickly. And then get into the management and administration of all of those different applications.
So you touched on some examples of this already, in terms of, something like shadow IT, or just the difficulties of inventorying all the cloud stuff that's out there. But I mean, in what ways is cloud application management fundamentally different from harder than endpoint management that MSPs are used to and doing with their existing RMM tools right now?
That's a fantastic point, Rich. It's, as much as it's a pivot, it's really another arrow in their quiver, right? They're doing the perimeter security today exceptionally well. And, they've gone from, 20 years in the chaotic model to the reactive, to the proactive, and now to the managed. And the difference with proactive is you're monitoring it and you're able to respond. When you're in managed, you actually have processes. And the processes are tied in with the technology, which automates a lot of the fixes and makes sure that everything is done in the same way every time. And that creates the productivity gain, the real productivity gains. Mm-hmm. So they do that really well on the perimeter stuff, most managed service providers, but they're not doing it on the application side. So to do it on the application side, they just haven't had the tools to be able to do it. And so now we're providing the tool so that they can go in and do a discovery within a customer's environment in about 10 minutes. And then they'll see a full list of every piece of SaaS app that's in there and who's using what. So now all of a sudden there's the approved application list and the unapproved application list. And then you can start doing the cost analysis against that as well. And you can see, great, okay, we've got, 3 different storage facilities that are being used, and we didn't know that. why are these people using Dropbox? That's not an approved thing. We're paying for Microsoft over here. Or same thing with an application like we're using today. You know, you may be using Zoom, but you may be paying for that already with Microsoft as well. Or there may be multiple email applications being used. So it's just getting that ground cover, and it may not be wrong, right? Some of those ones that are not approved may need to be approved and then managed. But some of them most probably should be deprecated and just save the money and use the tools that you're paying for. So
Gavin, this is Sitima. I think, first of all, I have to congratulate you on the name of your company. I love Augmentt. It's exactly how it sounds. And I think your product couldn't have come at a better time. Like, you know, if you listen to Microsoft, the whole digital transformation into this modern workplace is supposed to be like a 3-year journey before we're there. But because of the pandemic, we're here, it's now. And, you know, in March, we all just were forced to pick up our laptops and go home and start working. But now it's time to actually imagine what the new modern workplace is going to be like. And, you know, the user authentication in terms of security to like really say who you are really you. That's like a big piece of it, making sure the small, medium businesses and in Microsoft helps you in that. But then the next piece is exactly what you're saying. You know, there's so many applications out there, and not everything is easily managed and brought together. And a lot of small businesses don't even know who's using what. So having a product like this that brings it all together is such a big piece to reimagining this new way of working.
Well, obviously I agree. I think you're dead on. And it's because the small and medium-sized business, like the horse is out of the barn. They've all adopted cloud services. And so they're there, but they don't know exactly what they have, and they have no idea how to manage it because they can't afford these enterprise solutions to do this, and they don't have the expertise to do it. So
exactly, and as an MSP who is servicing, like, you know, we're servicing the end client, you know, and it's a journey. They can't just drop everything and say, okay, we're going to move and be totally secure in the cloud. It's about bringing the pieces that they're using and kind of working with each software vendor to see if they are, you know, they can be unified in a secure way, because most people are not even thinking security in this layer. And you know, I think with anything, it's a journey, and it sounds like your software allows you to kind of plan and put it all together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to do it in a very simple, affordable, and elegant way. You know, we've had the opportunity to build this product, and Derek is my partner, Derek Valera, is a fantastic technologist, and he stayed on after the transition with SolarWinds, and he was the VP of Marketing and Business Development for their cloud services. So Derek has been exposed to pretty much every cloud management tool you can think of, and how to build different stacks and integrate them and whatnot. And so I've been fortunate to have somebody like Derek to work with on this, because he understood, you know, to build a modern application, SaaS application, which is what we're delivering, and to make it highly scalable and very easy for the customer, the managed service provider. And it's a multi-tenant application, so the end customer, if the MSP wanted to give them administrative rights or rights to do certain aspects of the product, then they could do that. But to create an elegant, easy application where you can self-administer within the application, and you can have that multi-tenancy capability, and centralizing the view so that you can see all of your customers and your customers can see all of their departments, it's really wonderful to see, and to be building it off of the new technologies that we have today to build software. So I'm happy I'm not coming at this from a legacy perspective, because it would be impossible, to be honest. This is a lot harder to build than a traditional RMM solution because of the amount of data and logs and information. And as you say, relating that to the individuals and making sure it is the individuals that are actually using the application. So this is a very, the underlying technology is very different, but making it super simple for the MSP and the customer is the elegance of it.
So right now, today, as I understand it, you've got the ability in the Augmentt platform to do application discovery and cost optimization. There are more capabilities coming, some that are already kind of imminent and in the roadmap, and others that you sort of have in mind down the road. So I mean, talk a little bit about the capabilities that you envision giving MSPs in relation to cloud applications and managing those over time.
Right. So as you mentioned, the first module is what we call Augmentt Discover. And this is this super easy, within minutes, you can do a discovery of customer's environment, give them a report, show them all the SaaS applications, approved, not approved, security risks, all that kind of stuff. And then the second module is, so that's really around security, discovery, and shadow IT perspective. The second one is Augmentt Optimize, which is this integrates in with your financial systems, and it will allow you to do all the cost analysis per app, per individual, per department, and understanding the utilization. So this is really great for all of the approved apps, and the ones that aren't approved that you want to approve, then great, then that becomes part of your financial analysis also. So you can do modeling forwards, backwards within it also. So it's fantastic for VCO type of visits, as well as for the internal finance person, rather than them having zero idea about, you know, other than going to their financial system and looking department by department. This is just a nice consolidated view and dashboards. They can see all the applications and the cost by department and by individual, and based on utilization. So it's great to know that if these people are using, or this department is using this application, but are they actually using it? What percentage utilization are they on that application? Because maybe they have two apps that do sort of the same thing. One they're really using strongly, one they're not really using much at all. Maybe occasionally, but you want to know that so you can make proper recommendations. The third app is Engage, and that actually is just went into beta today, funnily enough, and is being released beginning of November, so very, very shortly. And that is the administration and the detailed management component. So I view all of these as management. The discovery is the initial founding part, then the financial analysis, and then the administration. So this is, we're talking onboarding employees, offboarding employees, building templates and processes in the application, so that if we're going to onboard Matt into the marketing department, well, the marketing person should have these applications with these permissions. And so the system will automate what it can within the system, and then whatever it can't, it will document, and that'll integrate into the PSA, send a ticket off, and make sure those other all those other things are done. And then as they're done, it updates the system so that you can see when that full service is done. So whether it's onboarding, almost more importantly, when you're offboarding somebody, so that you make sure all the applications that they were on, they're off quickly and securely. And then change management, same sort of thing, whether it's permissions or security policies, or somebody's changing departments, and so they need different access to different applications because of that. So that whole management side. And so we'll start deep with Office 365, because that is the application that the MSPs are using the most. And then we'll just keep building out the automation engine to work on the critical apps, G Suite and Salesforce and whatever. We're going to be listening to our partners, and we'll be constantly getting lists and updates, and we'll keep driving that management and automation. So if you think we've got up to 800 devices per technician, and I'm not going to call them devices anymore, I'm going to call them seats, because that's really what this is about now, is, okay, great, how do we get it to 10,000 seats per technician? You know, that's my dream. And that's how we help the service provider, but I'm as excited about helping the end customer, making sure they have the right stack and that their businesses are optimized to be competitive and meet their goals and objectives going forward.
So I want to take a step back. I've been looking forward to asking this particular question too. You know, we are old timers, right? Like we were back in the sort of early days of managed services. You were into managed services before managed services were cool.
Back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, Rich.
Yeah, exactly. And now managed services are super cool, right? Like private equity is plunging in. There are companies with billion-dollar-plus valuations out there. It's a big deal, and you've watched that happen. I'm just sort of curious, what do you think about the way the managed services market has sort of evolved over the course of the last 15 years or so? I mean, you know, did things play out more or less the way you thought they would, or are you in some ways sort of surprised, you know, the degree to which it's become a really big deal all of a sudden?
I'm not surprised that it's become a big deal, in that it was, you know, the interest was certainly percolating. And part of my background is venture capital, and I've invested in lots of companies, and so, you know, the small and medium-sized part of the market, which represents about 50% of the seats in North America, a much larger percent in Europe and the rest of the world, and the same sort of balance with IT spend is about 50-50. In North America, and higher with SMBs in Europe and the rest of the world. So the money is there, and the private equity follow the money train, and the profitability, the opportunity to consolidate, the technology space. I had a technology company I sold in 2000, just before the .com bomb. So I've been building software companies for a while, and we're just the cloud services space is just starting to accelerate, and the small and medium-sized businesses we all know have adopted a lot, but there's still a lot to go. But the MSPs, what surprises me is that nobody built the tools for the MSPs to start managing this. So you've got, you know, Flexera at $4 billion, ServiceNow, $4 billion a year, growing 28% year over year. You know, the same thing with Flexera. They're, you know, Snow's a couple of billion, and they're growing like crazy, and Splunk and Datadog. And so at the enterprise level, there's lots of these applications to manage the cloud and manage service and cloud services that are going through the roof. And why nobody came and built anything for the MSPs and really the small, medium-sized business market yet is, I'm shocked. I just like, and that was the thing, is after I got out of my business with my daughter, and I was actually having an executive dinner with my old management team at Enable. We get together for dinner every 6 months and have some nice wine and eat some good food and tell some good old stories. And I was saying, like, guys, you know, why has nobody done this SaaS management thing yet? And this was about a year and a half ago, and it was going, well, you know, yeah, that's a good point. And that's where Derek started saying, well, that's a great idea. Yeah, what, like, I'm into this. This is, so that's my big surprise, is why nobody's seen the opportunity or and more importantly, the need for the end customers and the opportunity for the MSPs to go in there and actually manage their full IT stack, not just the on-prem and the Microsoft 365, but the full stack, and to really help the customer optimize their business. And in turn, the MSP will optimize their business, and in turn, I'll be happy because I'll optimize my business.
And that's exactly it. I mean, as a MSP, we're only as good as our vendor partners and the technology advances, because, you know, as you know, at Iconic IT, we take care of our clients. We're the service people managing our client's environment and using the tools from our vendor partners. And we only advance and get more productive as our vendor partners are evolving their products. So it totally makes sense what you're saying, and getting tools like this. And I wonder if part of why a lot of software vendors haven't gotten into creating these kind of SaaS tools for MSPs, is it because when you're looking at small businesses, there's so many different types of software that it's too hard to corral? So like in your product map, you're starting with the more popular, bigger ones. How do we manage all the other accounting packages, this and that are out there?
So that's a terrific question. Our system actually recognizes approximately 21,000 SaaS applications, and we categorize them. And one of the things we're also launching is for all of those 21,000, and that list just keeps growing as our partners give us more names to add. We're actually creating a real-time database where you can go, if the application shows up in a customer's environment and you don't know what that application is, you can just hit a button and it will open a full library of, you know, is it SOC 2 compliant? What's the security policies? What's the SLA? What's the pricing model? How, you know, all the information on the company. So we're actually creating also a library, because we think from a security and a reporting perspective, particularly if you're doing banks or hospitals or anything like that, the auditors are now going to want to start getting reports on all the SaaS applications as they do for users and logs and all that kind of thing. So we discover and rate 21,000 SaaS applications today, and we'll just keep growing that list.
That's fantastic. I love the library idea.
Well, and one of the other things that we're doing to help the partners is we've created Augmentt Academy, which is a learning, it's a full learning portal that we've built. And it has all the processes of how do you do SaaS management? How do you do a discovery? What are your reports you should be providing to customers? So making it super easy, because we understand that there is a learning curve for most managed service providers to start delivering the managed services around SaaS applications. And so we're providing all of the learning materials as well for how to do this. Because, you know, we want to be the best in the world at SaaS management, and that's our focus. And that's why some of the other vendors have tried and been unsuccessful, because it takes complete focus. This is much more difficult than RMN management to do as a R&D venture. And you need to be dedicated and focused to it and put the resources and attention. So, you know, luckily Derek and I have a lot of experience in the space, and we've brought on other executives that have a ton of experience in the space. And you know, we know we're only as good as our partners. You guys are only as good as your customers. And so if we can help you to help your customer, we're all going to win. We've also got a very, this is something we did at Enable. We launched in 2010, was a freemium program. And we're doing this again with Augmentt, but it's that's even stronger and more aggressive. But we're essentially giving our partners a light version. We call it Essentials. of the product so they can go out and do those discoveries. And it's a full discovery of the customer's environment. And it's almost free. There's a very small monthly fee. They can go out to up to 100 customers or prospects, and they can move the licenses around. So it's not limited to that 100, and they can go out and give them reports. And if they want to do it just as a shadow IT report for their customers, they can. And so
now you're talking my language, sales and marketing. That's awesome.
Well, it makes it easy for the MSP. They can show instant value to the customer and show security gaps and help them optimize their licensing, just like that. And it costs almost nothing, and the deployment is super fast, and it's really high value instantly. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for the MSP, and we're suggesting start off small like that, exactly like that, because that's big to the customer. And the customer's going to go, holy smokes, I have all of these applications running that I didn't know. And yeah, let's get control over this. And yes, you can help me save some money. And the beauty to the MSP is this isn't money that they're losing from a business perspective, because they weren't even involved in that transaction, because the customer was going to the vendor directly for all those Salesforce licenses and marketing product licenses. The MSP can just go in and be the nice person, show them where they have problems, suggest solutions, help them save some money, and then say, look, we should be monitoring this on a monthly basis, providing you with a monthly report. We can trend the use of applications for you, and we can be showing you when new wrong applications or not approved applications are coming in, and we can shut that down quickly if desired or required.
Well, very cool. We only got a couple of minutes left. As you're talking about all these things you're building and these academies and all the new products that you're working on, I mean, it sounds like you're a company that has been around for 5 to 10 years, but your company's only been around a couple of months. Is that correct?
Well, Derek and I started the company in October last year. So Derek and I are celebrating our own little 1-year anniversary. But and then we were going through the product management and development cycle between then and January, and we launched our dev teams in January. So and the great thing is we were able to reach out to a lot of our old elite MSP partners from the Enable days, and these were all very sophisticated MSPs, and they provided us with a ton of guidance and support. And we're very grateful. But that's always been our strength, has always been our partners.
And so how is the uptake going? If you don't mind me closing on that particular question.
Oh, it's great. So we officially launched a product last month, and we've got about 80 MSPs on trials now. We've got a handful that have already purchased, and the funniest common thing was people going, holy smokes, how did I not know, as an MSP in a security company, how did I not know we had all these applications running in here?
Well, and as you said, from if you're helping manage onboarding and offboarding, I mean, that's a critical thing to know. Yes. In particular. Now being someone who lives near the Canadian border, are you also going to be planning to help with snowboarding?
Well, I am a snowboarder. I'm an old snowboarder, but
so no snowboarding support in the product quite yet. Well, interesting stuff, Gavin. I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. It's been great to hear about, and very, very interesting. For those who want to learn more about Augmentt and about your product and what it can do for them, where can they go?
www.augmentt.com, and Augmentt has 2 T's.
Any particular reason it has 2 T's, or is that just because that was the only way to get the domain name?
No, it was Augmentt, and then the second T was for technology.
Got it. I just thought you wanted people to pronounce it Augmentt. Who knows, right? But either way, that's the URL they want to go to learn more about Augmentt. Gavin Garbutt, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the show. We'll have our regular end of the show features. There's going to be a museum pick and a tech pick for you. And Rich will grab his crystal ball and put on his funny hat and try to predict the future to often hilarious results. You won't want to miss it. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
And back to part 3 of ChannelPro Weekly. Rich, great interview with Gavin. Really interesting stuff. I think Augmentt is going to do quite well, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, and you know, he made the point multiple times. Basically, this is something that every end user is dealing with. Every MSP is going to have to deal with, and there aren't actually all that. You know, there's some stuff out there, but this is really kind of an underdeveloped product category right now. So yeah, their timing is good. They've certainly identified a huge market opportunity.
For sure. Sitima, you have any comments on the interview that we had with Gavin? Thank you so much for being a part of it, by the way. It was great getting you involved and asking questions and talking.
Well, I just get so much energy from dynamic people like him. You know, he's obviously a serial entrepreneur and he produces like big mega hits, and people want his services. The story he gave about how he helped in between selling enable what he's been doing, and how he helped his daughter launch her company, and how much the PE firm bought it for. I just think minds like that are brilliant. They're always looking for what is a hole in the market and how can I fill it. And sounds like that's what he's doing right now.
Yeah, he has totally got the Midas touch, doesn't he? Because the other thing he just dropped in there was that he sold another business just before the .com bust. So I mean, he's been doing this serially for a long time.
So if if Gavin ever asks you to start a company with him, the answer is yes. Okay,
yes.
I think is where we're all going with that.
And you know what's funny about that, Matt, is that this is, I think, like June of this year, just before the product came out, they actually reached out to some, you know, MSPs. They went out to a bunch of people and said, hey, we're about to launch this business. We're raising a little additional capital. Do you want to get in? I hope anyone who got that call returned it.
Yeah, I definitely hope so too. I know Sitima is coming up on a deadline, so we don't have a lot of time. So Rich, I've got a quick museum and tech pick for us, and then we'll have you go and break down the news. We do not have time for 5 questions this week, unfortunately. But Sitima, the next time you come on, we'd love to have you back. We will play a little game we call 5 questions, where we learn about you by asking you crazy things. Sound like fun?
Sounds good.
All right. So my museum pick. So Sitima, the reason why we have a museum pick is because I have a massive amount of old stuff. I have a hobby, I like to call it, that anything electronic that plugs in has a screen or buttons. I just can't seem to get rid of it. I call it a hobby. My wife calls it a disease. Either way, it is for the benefit of all to revel in this old stuff from years past and talk about why they were significant or used. A lot of it's IT, some of it's CE. So I have kind of more of a CE pick, although you could have used it in IT depending on your needs. And Rich, I was in the graveyard digging through bins as I tend to do, and I have like 5 of these, and I'm like, wow, how things have changed. Where like this was a product that everybody probably had at some point or another, and it was crucial for for certain things, but now actually has like no need at all in the market. So my museum pick this week is this thing right here. This is the Jensen, aka Rekaton DVD 647. This is an RF modulator. An RF modulator. So for those who don't know what an RF modulator is, it's basically this. It's like for those who are listening, it's just it's a box, a kind of a grayish box. And on the back, there are typical AV inputs. There's a yellow, a red, and a white. And then there's the RF, like old TV antenna style coaxial cable connectors to connect it to a TV. So the whole reason why these things were necessary is because around the turn of, say, the early 90s, give or take, all of these line level, higher quality video devices started coming out, and you had no way to connect them to old TVs, because old TVs had like, just the coaxial cable to like input like for TV stations. So you had to find some way to adapt it in order to play, modern things like DVD players, which never had RF outputs on a TV. And I was thinking like, man, oh man, so many things that I had to use these stupid RF modulators to get them to work, and now there's like no need at all. Sitima, do you have any of these laying around? Do you remember these things?
No.
Rich, how about you? Did you ever have to have one of these things? Like when you bought your first DVD player and you're connected to that old CRT TV?
For the life of me, I can't remember how that worked. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember having something like that though.
So, well, I guess it was just me, but I had 5 of them for some apparent strange reason. But I'm sure that those who are watching and listening probably stumbled across one of these at some point in their life for a various need. Especially if you were like an old gamer, Rich. I know you were an old gamer. Satima, did you ever play video games when you were young?
Yeah, I played video games.
Did you play that? Do you have the Nintendo?
I had the Nintendo, but before that, it was a Texas Instrument one. I forget what. It was all black and white. I forget what the system was called.
Perfect. So if you had a Nintendo, believe it or not, you have experience probably with an RF modulator, because there was that little gray box that it plugged into, and then you had to screw that little gray box onto the TV. That was one of these. It was just exclusively dedicated for the NES, where this one could be used with lots of different stuff. So there you go. You have RF modulator in your blood. How about that?
Wow. Have you ever tried seeing like how much you could get for one of these?
These are probably, I bet I couldn't even give it away. But I do. Rich does know I've got a lot of stuff that does have a little bit of value around the house. So anyway, so that's my museum pick. I usually like to kind of play like a that was then, this is now, and kind of come up with a related tech pick, but there really is no need for things like this anymore per se. I mean, I guess I could do some kind of video adapter, but we've talked about those in the past. So Rich, I'm just gonna go all out and just say, you know what, my tech pick really has nothing to do with this at all, but it's one that we could say if there's anything that it does has to do, it is because it outputs video to a screen. And so my tech pick this week, Rich, is the Radeon Pro WX7100 workstation graphics cards. Card for desktops and workstations. So we've talked a little bit about graphics cards in the past, various ones. We've talked about some more consumer ones. This is a pro level one, so if you're doing a lot of CAD or doing a lot of GPU compute kind of stuff. This is not the most expensive or highest end one they make, but it's a good sweet spot card for those who need good GPU performance or capabilities without going into the crazy land of the larger cards. So that is my tech pick, Rich, the WX7100. How many you want?
Do you want a totally random thing that this just reminded me of? So like a year ago, I was at the IT Nation ConnectWise event and had an opportunity to meet a guy I had not met before named Steve Cochran, who at that time worked for Thoma Bravo, which is the private equity firm that owns ConnectWise. These days, he is the CTO at ConnectWise. And we were kind of talking about something or other, and he kind of casually mentioned at one point that he had essentially invented Radeon. And then he just kind of, moves on. And I'm like, wait a minute, rewind. You what? And he's, well, I wrote the original spec anyway, so I guess I invented it. So if you want to know about Steve Cochran's tech chops, that'll give you an idea of what he's done in the past.
So also, if Steve Cochran calls you to say, do you want to start a business called SEXYSaaS? You say yes.
Yeah.
Right. All right. I'm all in. Rich, I know we're butting up against the wire here. Please, if you could tell us what James Gaston has in case you missed it this week. And if you want to give us a little preview of what's to come, that would be super.
Yeah, well, every Friday, in fact, our own James Gaskin kind of fills you in on all the news you may have missed over the course of the week in his In Case You Missed It column. He will be talking about those new iPhones from Apple introduced this week. Look, Ma, no charger. There's new meeting room gear from Jabra and HP and from Poly. And last but not least at all, a story about a woman who gave birth to a son this week while, and I'm not kidding, asleep. And I'm not going to give it away, but there's also a surprise twist to this particular story that you'll want to check out. Now, looking ahead to next week, it's going for yours truly. It's going to be an interesting week because I'm going to be trying to cover about 1 million events. But Acronis and Intel and Dell and Veeam and Acer and SureWeb and Eaton are all doing conferences next week, virtual conferences next week. And this is going to be going on for a little while here, because a lot of these shows that were supposed to happen in the spring and in the summer were delayed. And people were hoping if we wait until October, November, we'll be able to meet in person. It didn't work out that way. So now all these virtual conferences are happening, one on top of the other. So there's going to be a lot of news next week.
Well, you are going to be a very, very busy person. Hopefully we still have a show next week with lots of stuff to talk about.
Indeed.
Indeed as well. All right. I want to give a big, big, big thank you to Sitima Fowler. I told you I was going to mess it up at the beginning of the show, didn't I? Sitima Fowler, the co-founder and vice president of marketing at Iconic IT. Sitima, for those who want to reach out to you or learn a little bit more about Iconic IT, where can they go? How can they get in touch?
Yeah, so first of all, you guys were a blast. You guys always do such quality things and everything you put out. So I'm so impressed by ChannelPro. Our domain name is www.iconicit.com. I also am very visible on LinkedIn and Facebook, and my personal email is sfowler, Fowler, @iconicit.com. And I love talking to people about growing their business, sales, marketing, anything you want to talk about.
Well, I hope they reach out to you, and I'm blushing. Thank you so much for the kind words here. And we definitely hope to get you back on some point down the road if you would like.
Thank you, because I got to come back and answer my 5 questions.
That you do. Always a lot of fun. Thank you so much again. For those who want to follow ChannelPro weekly, well, the best thing you can do is subscribe. Go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere where podcasts are aggregated. You will find us and subscribe. And then you don't have to worry about when new episodes come out. You just poof, they just magically appear on your phone or your device, and you are all good. If you like to watch, we are on YouTube. You can subscribe there. Hit the red subscribe button and the little bell so you get notifications of new episodes. And of course, ChannelProNetwork.com is the website. Point your web browser to it each and every day for news, articles, white papers, downloads, resources, stories, all kinds of good stuff that is custom tailored for you, the MSP, the VAR, the integrator, to help you keep you up on top of what's going on in the industry, to help you with ways to help you run your business and make money, save money, and help your customer. Lots of resources all day, every day. Make sure you go there. We're on the social networks. We're ChannelPro Network on Facebook and LinkedIn. We're at ChannelPro SMB on Twitter. Sitima, you're on all the social networks, right? You have like a Twitter handle you want to call out, or a Facebook name?
Yeah. So I don't know what you mean by Facebook name.
So what is it, just Iconic IT on Facebook? You have like a page?
Yes.
There? Yes. Okay. And then you have a Twitter handle?
Yeah, but I don't know what it is.
No worries. If they go to your website, I'm sure they'll find it. Rich, what are you on the Twitters?
At Rich Free.
And I'm at Matt Whitlock on the Twitter, so you can follow us there. It's all good stuff. And we are going to see you all in episode 164 next week. Thanks for watching. See you then.